Welcome to our California Disaster Extensions webcast. This is a special little presentation we put together that's going about 15 or so minutes long. And we're going over all this insanity that's been going on about the extension due dates and these constant notices from the IRS and everybody's concerns about what's covered and what isn't and so forth. So we thought we'd put together this little presentation to kind of bring you up to speed on it. And being that we still got an opportunity for more notices from the IRS, so this may not be the last, but at least we'll get through most of it with you. So at any rate, I put together a little PDF file that you can download that's you can use like a little white paper that lists all the stuff that you need to know about these extensions. So if you haven't downloaded it, you go ahead and do that, or pause the webcast and do it now, or go back later, whatever you choose to do. At any rate, let's move on here. My name is Lee Reams, and I'll be your instructor today. So we'll see if we can get through this together. So anyway, this is just a short webcast to cover the California winter disaster, October 16, 2023 postponement provisions for federal and California 2023 filings. Now, when I say 2023 filings, I mean 2022 returns being filed in 2023. So make sure you don't get confused there. So anyway, now there's no CPE or CE offered for this free webcast. It's going to be short. So, and like I mentioned before, there is a syllabus you can download. And if you have questions related to this, and I really hope I'll explain it well enough you won't have any questions, but if you do, post them on the forum. That way everybody gets the benefit of your questions and answers. And if you're someone who's taking this that doesn't belong to our forum, you can send your questions to cpe@clientwise.com and we'll respond as time permits. Okay, so getting into this, let's talk a little background. Originally, an IRS came out with their first announcement on 1/10/23. And then they came out another one on 1/24/23 with various updates. And they covered victims of severe winter floods, storms, landslides, and mudslides. And the first extension, if you recall, was to May 15, 2023, and the IRS conformed to that. And then on September 23rd and 24th, 2023, we got further updates. And this time the IRS extended the relief clear to October 16, 2023, which did what? It wiped out the need to do any extensions. So you put your extension forms away. Anyway, California didn't announce conformity until March 2nd, just kind of keep us on our edge. And then on October 16th, we had still another, October 16th applies to both federal and California filings and payments. And then again on March 17th, this craziness continued and the IRS released yet another notice. And that notice included 4 counties that weren't included in the prior notices. And I presume California will conform to that. So we'll proceed under that assumption. So instead of listing all the counties and all that kind of stuff, what I did is I broke this down a bit. So we've got a little chart here that's, by the way, all this stuff's in the syllabus. You don't have to write anything down. You can just take a look at that after you've finished the webcast. So anyway, Lassen, Modoc, and Shasta have yet to be named in this extension game, okay? So they have no extensions and their due dates are still April 18th for 1040s. And Imperial, Kern, Plumas, and Sierra were the 4 that were named in this last announcement, which was CA 2023-3. And their relief began on March 9th when that notice came out, and their extensions are through October 16th. So they're only extending filings that occurred March 9th and forward for those 4 counties. And then all other counties, which were covered under CA 2023-1 and 2023-2, their beginning date was January 8th through October 16th. However, when the very first notice came out, CA 23-01, which was without an update, that was the very first one, dated 1/10 of 2023, they actually covered filings due December 27th and forward. So I don't think that makes any difference, but because nothing was due in that period. But okay, so the extension. So a lot of preparers have been nervous, and rightfully so, about the payments also being extended. And the answer to that is yes, they were. And just so you'll feel comfortable with that, I'm going to read to you something that came out of all of the notices, all had this. It says victims of severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides beginning January 8, 2023, now have until October 16, 2003 to file various individual and business tax returns and make tax payments. So feel comfortable about this. Now, the only differences in that is that the very last notice came out and says beginning March, what was it? Anyway, that March date and forward. So the extensions apply to both filings and payments. Relief is automatic. Filing form 4868 or any other extension is not necessary. But there is an exception. Extensions do not apply to payroll deposits. We're going to talk about that in a future slide here. Now, this is an interesting, and it brings up a good point. We had a question asked on the forum. It says, I am doing a 2021 and 2022 return for a client. Does filing and payment extensions apply to the 2021 return? So what does everybody think? Well, I think you're thinking right, it doesn't. So as noticed previously, the relief applies to filings due on or after January 8th, 2023, or December 27th in some cases, and through October 16th of 23. So the 2021 returns were due before those dates. So therefore, the relief would not apply to the 2021 return or any other return that didn't fall within those dates. All right, so who qualifies for relief? And that's also been a subject of concern. So, and that's really partly in the fault of the IRS. They start off there with their announcements with victims of severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides. And they should have started off with folks living in these counties. Anyway, their little statement about victims could be interpreted to mean that a client must have actually suffered some damage to qualify. And that's also been questions that are posted in the forum. And anyway, that's not true. The client need only reside in one of the specified counties to qualify, as indicated in the following excerpt from the IRS announcements. The IRS automatically identifies taxpayers located in a covered disaster area and applies filing and relief payments. And payment relief. But affected taxpayers who reside or have businesses located outside the disaster areas should call the disaster hotline at 866-562-5227, and they can request tax relief. So right from the IRS statements, taxpayers need only reside in a disaster area to qualify for relief. Now, which makes me wonder here, why didn't they just say the whole state of California, get this over with? They keep putting out these notices and maybe in different counties in each one. It's like a little minefield we got to run through here. Anyway, you'll also find that the little comment in these notices is about books and records. So if an individual is not within a disaster area, but their books and records are within a disaster area, then they also qualify for relief. Thus, if one of your clients does not reside in a disaster area, but your office is located in a disaster area, and if the client's books and records are at your office, then that client would qualify for relief. And that's kind of justified by that little blue statement there. But I want to bring up a point right here. And we've got a Q&A coming up here in a minute, so I'll cover it as well. But I want to make a point. This disaster relief is for federal and California returns of people residing in the disaster area, or or so forth. So if somebody back in Pennsylvania sends their books and records to you, you're not going to get them a disaster relief, because that's just not going to work. So anyway, why did I pick Pennsylvania? Because my granddaughter's going on a little trip here, and she gets to go to Pennsylvania and see all the sites. So, which made me think of Pennsylvania. Anyway, what qualifies for federal relief? Anyway, under Section 7508A, the IRS has a section that covers relief, and it names all these things, which person just has to apply the notice that the IRS puts out with Section 7508A to determine what goes on. So at any rate, we've got the individual tax returns, estimated tax payments, corporate tax returns, estate income tax returns, trust income tax returns, partnerships, S corporations, other trust returns, estate returns, gift tax returns, generation skipping tax returns, tax exempt organizations or 990 series information filings, and the employee benefit plan returns 550, 555 series, Section 1031 exchange, and we're going to talk about that in more detail later. IRA contributions. So that's another interesting one. People are really spooky about that as well. The IRA contributions for 2022 for the affected counties can be made clear up to October 16th. So, and health savings accounts contributions the same way. And payroll tax returns filings, but not the deposits, which makes you think, why would I not do the return if I have to make the deposit anyway? So this means that your client with a tax due on their 2022 return also pays estimated tax, could wait to make the return payment, and April, June, September estimated tax payments all on October 16th. So those with substantial amounts due may want to set the money aside, so if the client doesn't spend it, at least have them set it aside in an interest-bearing bank account. And everybody's going to be spooky about that now that we have these bank issues going on. But anyways, caution your client not to spend their money, just to put it away until it's time to pay it. So, okay. So what qualifies for California relief? Well, basically the same thing: individual tax returns and payments due April 18th, 2023, quarterly estimates due January 17th, June 15th, and September 15th. Business entities whose tax returns are normally due on March 15th and April 18th. And interestingly, that pass-through elective tax payments due on June 15th, which you before had to make on June 15th in order to qualify for that relief for the year 2023, but now those don't have to be made until, again, the October due date. So penalties and interest. Everybody's concerned, well, gee whiz, I don't make the payments, am I going to get stuck with penalties and interest? No, you're not, because the due date now is October 16th, 2023. So you won't accrue penalties and interest until after that date. And now let's talk about the 1031 exchange transaction. So there is a Section 17 in Rev Proc 2018-58. And don't be like me, don't start reading it from the top. It's 130 some pages long. And Section 17, the part about 1031 exchanges, on the very, very last page of that PDF. So if you want to read it yourself, pull Rev Proc 2018-58 and then just hit end on your keyboard, go down and read the last couple of pages, talk about this. So anyway, so bottom line, cut to the chase here. If either the 45 or the 180-day period for your tax-free exchange falls on or after December 27th for those counties, or January 8th or March 9th, as applicable, through October 16th, the testing periods are also extended to October 16th. So it's quite simple, actually. So, all right. What's next here? Payroll deposits. Payroll deposits are not extended except as noted below. So without reading this all over, so the October 16th deadline applies to the quarterly payroll and excise returns normally due on January 31st, 2023. However, if they weren't made on time, they will be abated if the tax deposits were made by January 23rd, 2023. And that's in CA 2023-1. And by the way, I'm going to have links in the PDF that you download to all these important documents. So you can just click on the links and bring them up. And then after December 27th and before January 11th, they would be abated if made by January 11th. And after March 9th, before March 24th, those would be abated if the deposits were made by March 24th. So we had some very short extension periods for making those deposits, just a few days. So, all right. So here's the form question I talked about earlier. I have a California resident client who resides in a disaster area who has a rental in Arizona. Does his Arizona return qualify for the October 16th relief? So without reading the rest of that, what do you think? Well, the answer to that is no. Disaster relief related to California storms applies to federal and California, not Arizona or any other state for that matter. So therefore, Arizona is not going to recognize a California disaster declaration. So you need to file the Arizona return on time and or file an extension for the Arizona return. I had somebody ask me the other day on the forum, says, what if I want to file an extension anyway? Is that okay? Sure, go ahead. Just wasting your time, but you can certainly go ahead and file them. There's nothing against that. So, okay, other relief. IRS will waive the usual fees and requests for copies of previously filed tax returns for affected taxpayers. So this is in there because they may have had their records destroyed or whatever. So at any rate, you can request those using their past tax returns using 4506 form or form 5506T for transcripts. And they say to write across the top, California's severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides. And they say in bold letters at the top of the forms. I looked at the forms and I guess you can fit them in there, but it's kind of tight to get all our wording in there. Anyway, just fooling around here. Anyway, we got here a little chart here for you, shows you what the FEMA disaster designation is, which applies to those particular IRS announcements. So should you need that, you can use those as well. So, all right, so what's next? Direct pay cancellations. I've had people say, gee whiz, I already scheduled payments for my clients, can I cancel them? And the answer to that is yes, you can. Although that would make me a little nervous if they didn't, the IRS screwed this up, but who knows? So if you want to cancel them, that payment, you call the IRS e-file payment services 24/7 at 888-353-4537 to inquire about or cancel a payment. They request that you wait 7 to 10 days after the return was accepted before calling. In other words, if you had set up the deposits for the return, cancellation requests must be received no later than 11:57 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 days prior to the scheduled payment date. Or you can visit that website listing there to reschedule a payment. So, by the way, to remember, don't have to write anything down here. It's all in the PDF file. So some other issues, late filing notices. Should a taxpayer receive a late filing or penalty notice from the IRS, they should just call a telephone number and notice and have the IRS abate the penalty. And you all shudder when it says, call the telephone number. Because our history in the last couple of years hasn't been too good about them answering the phones. Anyway, information returns, the postponement of time to file and pay does not apply to information returns in the W-2, 1094, 1095, 1097, 1098, or 1099 series. or to the 1042S, 3921, 3922, or 8027, or to employment and excise deposits other than the notice in the we talked about on the payroll deposit slide. All right, so just a little reminder, I built all the links in the PDF file, so you can just pull that up and you can click on any of those links and it'll take them to right to the document or the information you need. So with that, I think we've covered the issue, and I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope this clarified all your questions about October 16th due dates. Take care and have a great rest of the tax season, which is now through October 16th. All right, take care. Bye.